Hello and welcome to Can You Cook Kosher? Today, Jody, a complete kosher novice, has a simple task. Make some kosher meatballs. Can she do it? And she's off to the grocery store. She's got the spices and, oh, don't take that sauce. It's made with non-kosher fish. Okay, we've got a new sauce. Now for some breadcrumbs. Ooh, not those. They are kosher, but they have cheese. Can't use that for meatballs. And of course, the meat. Better make a quick run to a kosher supermarket. All right, she's got the meat. Let's get cooking. Oops, not that pot, Jody. That's a dairy pot. I know, it's a big kitchen. Don't get lost. The sauce is boiling. The meatballs are prepped. In they go and... beautiful! Jody's plating and topping them off with a sprinkle of Parmesan. Oh, sorry, Jody.
That's not kosher!
Better luck next time. And someone throw out that plate. Keeping kosher can sometimes feel like an obstacle course. The laws are so numerous and complex, they might just be the single most impactful branch of Jewish law there is, because they affect where observant Jews live, shop, eat, and even what their homes look like, making their lives literally built around keeping kosher. So why? What's the deep meaning behind keeping kosher? Let's see if we can figure something out together by looking at the Torah's view on eating meat. I know, probably not where you thought this was going. But if you think about all the ways kosher laws impact people's lives, what ingredients make something non-kosher? What kind of mixtures make you have to throw out food? It really all involves one or another kind of meat. If animals are off the table, kashrut practically doesn't exist. So here's my radical suggestion. If we want to understand keeping kosher, we need to understand the Torah's view on eating meat. Now, maybe you're thinking, the Torah's view on eating meat? Like pro or con? Well, that's easy. There's no way the Torah is con. I mean, if it was, you'd think Jews would take it easy with the pastrami on rye. But the truth is actually way more complicated, and it starts in the very first chapter of Genesis. Just after God creates humans, God tells them what their menu is. Hine natati lechem et kol eseb zoreya zera asher al penei chol haaretz. Behold, I have given to you all of the plants. Notice anything missing? Like animals? Back in Eden, the menu was fruits and vegetables. It wasn't until 10 generations later, after God flooded the world, that things changed. When Noah comes out of the ark, God updates the rules. Kol remes asher hu chai lechem yiyeh la'ochla. Every living thing is yours to eat. Keyerek eseb natati lechem et kol. Just like the plants. So God gave Noah the go-ahead to eat meat, and that has been the law ever since. Great, so what have we learned about how the Torah views eating meat? If the Torah were totally in favor of eating meat, then wouldn't God have allowed Adam and Eve to eat meat to begin with? But if the Torah isn't in favor of eating meat, why allow Noah and all of his descendants to do so? Well, here's where it gets complicated. Because sure, God gave permission for humankind to eat meat, but maybe it wasn't a sign of full-throated support. It was just a concession to what God knows was humankind's desire. Because permission can mean different things. Say I had a teenager who started asking for driving lessons, and I gave permission. That might be because I think it's great for teenagers to learn how to drive. You know, go for it. Maybe you can start doing the shopping. But if I had a teenager who asked for motorcycle lessons, the only way I could possibly imagine giving permission is if I was worried that not giving permission would lead to something worse, like my kid sneaking out and trying to ride without lessons. So those are two very different kinds of permission. One is gung-ho, and the other is just better than something even worse. So what kind of permission did God give to Noah? Was it gung-ho, or was it some kind of concession? Feels like you could read it either way. So what do? Well, we can look for more evidence in the Torah that proves how God feels about meat eating one way or the other. And it just so happens I have some evidence to consider. Way later in the Torah, in Leviticus, we hear about the process for slaughtering an animal. And the law says that when the animal's blood is leaving its body, you have to spill it on the ground and cover it with dirt. V'shafach et damo v'chisahu ba'afar. Now, here's the thing. Spilling blood, covering up blood, well, they don't sound very good. If you're catching up with your friend and you're like, hey, what you been up to? And he says, I've been spilling blood and covering it up. You'll probably be like, oh, cool. Let's hang out again next February 30th. So if the Torah is using words that convey this sense of, hey, when you're done murdering the animal, don't forget to cover it up, it sounds like the Torah is saying, okay, sure, you can eat meat, but you know what you're doing, right? It's pretty horrifying. It's something you need to cover up. And maybe you're thinking, well, yeah, of course it sounds bad when you take it out of context and say it in a creepy voice and everything. But what makes you think those words carry a murderous connotation in the language of the Bible? So glad you asked. That would be a totally valid critique of this insight, if the Torah didn't actually use these very same phrases to literally refer to committing and covering up murder. Here's one example with both phrases. When Joseph's brothers contemplate killing him and ultimately decide to sell him, Reuven tries to dissuade his brothers from killing Joseph, and he tells them, Al tishbechu dam, don't spill blood. And when Judah starts pitching the idea of the sale, he says, Ma beitza ki naharog et achinu v'chisinu et damo. What gain is there in killing our brother and covering his blood? So shvichut dam, kisui dam, these phrases mean just what they sound like, committing murder and covering it up. And that makes me think that the permission to eat meat is motorcycle permission. When God told Noah the animals were his to eat, that wasn't a happy, enthusiastic offer. It was a concession. For whatever reason, God decided in the post-flood world, humans needed access to meat. But that didn't change the fact that eating meat was never the ideal. Eating meat is, shockingly enough, murder-ish. Even though it's allowed, the Torah seems to be hinting that morally this isn't what you do if you really wanted to do what's right. Given what I thought I knew about Torah and Judaism, I honestly didn't see this one coming. But when I look at the evidence, that's just what the text seems to point to. Except, do me a favor, hold that thought, and we're going to rewind to right here. You'll see where we're going with this in just a minute. Okay, and play. So what kind of permission did God give to Noah? Was it gung-ho? Or was it some kind of concession? Feels like you could read it either way. So what do? Well, we can look for more evidence in the Torah that proves how God feels about meat eating one way or the other. And it just so happens I have some evidence to consider. If you go back just a couple of verses to the end of Genesis chapter 8, we hear about Noah and his family and all the animals coming out of the ark. And as soon as he's out, Noah builds an altar and offers some animals up to God. And God is really pleased with this. The Torah says God smelled the pleasing smell of the offering, Vayarach Hashem et reach hanichoach, and made Noah promises about how God's not going to mess with the earth. Then God blessed Noah, and right after that, God granted permission for humans to eat animals. That's some really important context for this permission. Because let's play this out. If eating animals is totally fine, the story makes perfect sense. Noah offers his sacrifices, God is pleased, and whatever the reason was that it wasn't allowed before, God now happily extends permission for mankind to partake of meat. But if allowing meat actually was a concession, if there's something heinous about killing animals, well, then what's happening here? Noah kills a whole bunch of animals, and God responds with blessings, and promises, and greenlighting killing more animals? That would roughly be the equivalent of saying, hey, thanks for pulling that string of armed robberies for me last week. Why don't you go mug the rich folks up the block? You know, you deserve it. That doesn't make any sense. We're talking about God here, not the Godfather. God isn't a mob boss. He's the source of truth and morality. So this story just doesn't make any sense if eating meat is a problem. It makes way more sense to conclude that the permission to eat animals is not actually a concession. We're invited to enjoy them, free and clear. And so now we have a problem. We wanted to know what the Torah had to say about eating meat, and we ended up with two arguments that point in opposite directions. Read Leviticus carefully, and it seems that eating meat is thinly sanctioned murder. Read Genesis, and you get the sense that you can dig in with a clear conscience. How do these live together in one Torah? It's tricky. There's no perfect answer. If you assume eating meat is wrong, you have to contend with Genesis and find another way to read it. Like, maybe even though they're right next to each other, Noah offering sacrifices and God giving permission to eat meat are two totally different conversations. And God's view on offerings doesn't prove anything about eating meat personally. And on the flip side, if you take the position that eating animals is just fine, you have to contend with Leviticus and find a different way of reading the ritual of covering the blood. Like, maybe it's not about guilt, but something akin to a kind of burial, a way of showing honor to the animal by treating its blood with dignity. And I'm sure there are more possibilities. If anyone out there watching has a thought, drop it in the comments. I'd love to see it. But the thing is, even though I may not be sure which reading is right, I still think we've learned something pretty significant about the Torah's view on eating meat, and by extension about the laws of keeping kosher. The law of covering the blood, whether you see it as acknowledging your guilt or as a way of honoring the life of an animal, means that there's something weighty about slaughtering an animal. You need to approach it with thought and sensitivity. It demands a formal ritual. It's just not the same thing as picking an apple off of a tree. And that, well, it makes me want to try to start thinking of meat as more than just another ingredient in the fridge. I'm not saying I'm going to eat meat and feel shame because of what it says in Leviticus. I'll leave the meat shaming to my cardiologist. But maybe I can cultivate an awareness of where the meat comes from, appreciate the life that was given for me to be able to have my food. And I want to own that this is hard. I don't meet very many cows. My meat comes in styrofoam containers with plastic wrap, and there's nothing about it that brings to mind how it used to be alive. So it takes effort, and I'm working on it, trying to find time to actually go visit farms and see living animals, taking a few seconds to think before I dig into my dinner, developing my sensitivities by being thoughtful and slowing down. These insights about meat and the weightiness of eating animals, they kind of make me wonder, are all the laws of keeping kosher, like not mixing milk and meat or only eating certain kinds of animals, are they also about being more thoughtful and sensitive? About not eating mindlessly, but using our dietary choices as a way of expressing something, whether it's shame or respect or something else? We'll get into these exact questions in parts 2 and 3 of this series. Stay tuned.
Thanks for watching. Meaningful Judaism is a project of Aleph Beta Labs, and we're supported by generous folks just like you. Make sure to subscribe and go to alephbeta.org to find out more.